Democrats have already folded to the Republicans on a stimulus deal. So now, right now, we are at a crisis level on when it comes to economic conditions caused by the coronavirus. It's actually been more than 8 months since the last major COVID-19 relief package was passed. That's the CARES Act, of course, and it was. I mean, so that actually contained about $1,200, one stimulus check, and some temporary unemployment benefits, as well as some money for the states. In that time, of course, we've had an election, several different recounts, as well as some pretty grim milestones. For example, we have hit about 250,000 deaths. Over, of course, 10 million, about 13 million people have actually contracted coronavirus. It's really bad, and it's only getting worse. So now you also had a surge in eviction cases going to court, unemployment claims, and also the need for food banks. So we are in a dire situation right now, both in terms of healthcare and health, and of course in terms of the economy. Even major economists are saying that we need to go big with stimulus. So what are we going to do? Apparently nothing. Mitch McConnell and the Senate have actually been sitting on a COVID relief package since May. That's when, of course, the Democrats passed the HEROES Act. Since then, the Democrats have offered two different compromise bills. The latest being, of course, $1.8 trillion bill, which included less money for expanded unemployment, less money for the states and other things. And then, of course, that was not actually draconian enough for Mitch McConnell. In fact, the $908 billion is actually the latest to come from a bipartisan group of senators. And of course, you had $1.8 trillion from the Democrats. And so, speaking about that $908 billion proposal, that is supposed to be a compromise proposal, but it's just disastrous. It's just a terrible piece of legislation. I talked about that. Asked about this, by the way, here's what McConnell said. Quote, we just don't have time to waste. Oh, really? We have a couple of weeks left here. Obviously, it does require bipartisan support to get through Congress, but it requires a presidential signature. Well, at least he's right about that part. But I challenge the whole we don't have time. Really? Democrats have been pushing for coronavirus stimulus since May. Even Donald Trump, and I understand that he was only doing this to try to win an election, but he said he'd sign a $1.8 trillion deal with Pelosi. So obviously, I mean, again, I don't know if he would sign this. I think he's, too busy, basically trying to fight the results of the election. But so I don't even know if he'd sign anything at this point. But look, that said, what did McConnell do during the time where we could have actually got a $1.8 trillion stimulus deal? That's, of course, if the Democrats had accepted that. Well, he took at least 3 Senate vacations. 3. No. Screw you guys. The only thing that Mitch McConnell has done is put forward a $500 billion skinny bill, which had basically nothing for workers, no stimulus checks, and is chock full of corporate welfare. And that's it. Mitch McConnell is a ghoul. He is the worst of the worst. Now, that doesn't mean the Democrats are better. As I said before, as I opened the story, they already have bailed. And so they already are now agreeing with the Republicans. And by the way, let me get to some strong statements from Democrats. First, Senator Tina Smith. She said that his comments were, quote, classic Mitch McConnell. Oh, okay. Here's what she said. Nobody knows more about wasting time than McConnell. Quote, he had the Senate do nothing on COVID relief in November, nothing in October, September, August. It's painful how long this is going on. He refuses to negotiate with Democrats, and he wants to talk about wasting time? I've never seen a place like Mitch McConnell's United States Senate. It's like he owns it. If he doesn't like something, it's a waste of time, and that's the end of it. Well, she's absolutely right. But here's the thing. Mitch McConnell does it because he always wins. He always gets his way anyway. Again, the Democrats are now looking to pass a $908 billion stimulus bill. And so, I mean, that's it. That's it. Now, that's the one, of course, with the corporate liability shield and no stimulus checks for workers, $300 for people who are unemployed. It's actually a worse deal than that $1.8 trillion deal that Pelosi had refused to take up months ago. In fact, here's Senator Dick Durbin saying, no, this is a great bill. Take a look.
They've come up with a $908 billion plan. It's a good one. There are some aspects of it that cause some questions in my mind about liability, but beyond that, I can tell you the dollars are well spent in this plan, but Senator Mitch McConnell will not accept this.
Are you ready to work out a compromise from your perspective and accept some sort of middle-of-the-road deal, at least to help some of these people get through Christmas and beyond?
Well, that's exactly what we did. You know, here is Mitch McConnell with his $500 billion. Here are the Democrats with $1.5 or $2.2 trillion. And we came in with a plan for $908 billion. And it was crafted by Democrats and Republicans after a long weeks and hours of deliberation. This is a middle ground. This is a compromise. It's a good bill.
No, it's not. It's a terrible bill. But no, I love how the assumption is. And you know, Wolf Blitzer is like, are you going to compromise with the Republicans? That's not a compromise. It's a cave. That's what this is. It's an absolute cave. And so this is an awful bill. And yet, Joe Biden, Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, Dick Durbin, they're all saying, okay, yeah, we'll take the awful deal. They're all, quote, all the Democratic leaders got together and they put out this statement. While we made a new offer to Leader McConnell on Monday in the spirit of compromise, we believe the bipartisan framework introduced by senators yesterday, the $908 billion bill, should be used as a basis for immediate bipartisan bicameral negotiations. Of course, we and others will offer improvements, but the need to act is immediate, and we believe that with good faith negotiations, we could come to an agreement. Well, see, that's the problem. Mitch McConnell does not act in good faith. He just doesn't. This deal and McConnell's offer are both a slap in the face to the 20 million people who are unemployed right now, and the millions more who can't afford their rent, their utilities, or anything like that. And the thing is, again, the Democrats said, we'll take the deal, we'll take the deal. And McConnell is already saying, no, $908 billion, too much. It's too much. See, that means they're probably going to go, and this is what happens all the time. So the Republicans, they go and they just do these ridiculously terrible pieces of legislation, right? And that's what they put forward constantly, over and over and over again, okay? And the Democrats, they're like, oh, we must be bipartisan. We must be bipartisan. What can we do? We have to be bipartisan. I mean, we don't have control of the Senate, so because we put up terrible Democratic candidates. But, oh, man, you know, we got to go towards the Republicans. We got to go towards the Republicans. And the media feeds into that. Wolf Blitzer, again, feeding into that, saying, are you going to compromise with McConnell? Why are you not compromising with McConnell? McConnell has put out a very good piece of legislation. Why are you not compromising with Mitch McConnell? It's constant. It's terrible pieces of legislation. But that's what we get. And so McConnell's going to take, you know, McConnell will get what he wants in the end, because that's what always happens. He has rope-a-dope the Democrats into a terrible position. And again, he knows it. He knows it. He's got all the power, and Democratic leadership refused to call it what it is. And it's the Democrats who will end up taking the fall when things don't get better in the economy, because whether it passes or doesn't, it's still going to be a disaster, because nothing that is presented comes close to being even close enough. And that's exactly what Mitch McConnell wants. He wants the economy to fail, so then later on, he can blame the crisis on the Democrats. He is not a good person. He is an evil person. If you enjoyed this video, please give us a like and share with your friends. You can subscribe and help out the channel by becoming a patron. It's patreon.com/Jeff Waldorf.
Or you can become a channel member as well by hitting the join button below.